What's going on, my guardian gamers? I, Birdman, back with another Destiny 2 build, and today I'm going to be showing off a really solid setup that can carry you through all the different activities for endgame, whether it is Grandmasters, Lost Sectors, or anything involving the current Guardian games. You're able to take out champions, bosses, all the different things. This is like, I feel like a used car salesman pitching this build because I've had just so much fun with it. But before we get into all that, you can follow me over on YouTube and Twitter at Birdman778. Give a thumbs up on this video and let me know something you're interested in seeing down below, whether it is Hunter, Titan, or Warlock. Subscribe, become a member. All right, let's get right into it. Now, as always, we like to go over the exotic itself. So we're going to look at the Peregrine Greaves. These read Peregrine Strike. All shoulder charges, Seismic Strike, Hammer Strike, or Shield Bash deal bonus damage when activated in air, damaging mini bosses, tormentors, or champions. With your shoulder charge, refunds your melee, provides a small benefit to airborne effectiveness stat for all weapons. This is like, these become just an even better exotic with the addition recently that it got, where you got that refill of the charge if you are attacking one of those different higher tier enemies, and it is perfect. It's perfect for endgame now. Like, these are upper echelon S tier. I'm having so much fun with this setup, and this is honestly a decent one to even do whether you are solo or with a team, just because you are going to be able to help out everybody with how we have this set up for any champ that comes in your way. Now, for the subclass, I recommend using Sunbreaker Solar. I know there's a bunch of builds out there going around with Void using the Peregrine Greaves. I already have one of those as well on my channel, but I'm taking advantage of the artifact and a lot of the mods in there for this setup. So Solar is just really good this season. So want to take advantage of that as much as humanly possible. For the super, I recommend using Burning Maul. It has a bit of a shorter cooldown than using the Hammer of Soul, but at the same time, you're able to get really big damage out of the slam of it because it creates those cyclones of flames, and it's just going to constantly ignite targets. Really beneficial one, in my opinion, for any bossing encounter. For abilities, you want to make sure you're using that Hammer Strike because it's going to work in conjunction with the Peregrine Greaves. So no throwing hammer on this one. For the grenade, I recommend a healing grenade. You can obviously use a damaging grenade if you want, but this build already does a bunch of AoE to obviously regular combatants, but also higher tier enemies. So having just like ability to, heal myself on demand is always really beneficial. For the aspects, I recommend using Soul Invictus. Solar ability, Final Blows, Hammer Soul impacts, and defeating scorched targets creates sunspots. Your abilities regenerate faster, and your super drains more slowly while standing in a sunspot. Sunspots apply Scorched to deal damage to targets inside. Entering a sunspot applies Restoration. Obviously going to be a really good one just to constantly have essentially like little wither hordes around the map, just burning enemies and applying Scorch. Now, we're going to be able to apply a lot of Scorch from another mod in our artifact this season, but this is obviously going to be a great one for also giving us that easy restoration for consistent healing. Also, I'm going with Roaring Flames just to make sure that all those solar abilities or ignitions are going to have higher damage and is able to also stack up. Again, just obviously boosting up what we already have going on in our class. For the fragments, I recommend Ember of Torches. Powered melee attacks against combatants make you and nearby allies radiant. Obviously, we have a great way to do that within the artifact, but this is just always a really solid one to have on regardless, just to have that instant apply of radiant. Ember of Searing, defeating scorched targets grants melee energy and creates a fire sprite. This is going to be a really easy way to get your Hammer Strike back if for some reason when you use it against a champion or something like that, it goes away. You're able to do a little bit of mobbing real fast, scorch a bunch of targets, and then get that back really fast. Ember of Empyrean, solar weapon or ability Final Blows extend the duration of restoration radiant effects applied to you. Obviously, this is just a really good one to use with the certain weapons that we're going to be having on this build. Just to constantly keep up that healing and damage. And then finally, Ember of Blistering, defeating targets with solar ignitions grants grenade energy. Obviously, just a really great way to get our healing grenade back almost instantly when we're in mobbing scenarios or something like that, if we're just like really in the thick of it. Now, for the weapons for this setup, I'm obviously going to recommend the Sunshot just for really fast, huge AoE damage gameplay. Its intrinsic trait reads, this weapon fires explosive rounds and highlights targets that take damage from Sunshot. And also its Sunblast trait, targets killed with Sunshot explode in solar energy. It's going to be a great way to just constantly apply Scorch to the areas, ignitions, and just take out mobs really fast. Also, it has just really good damage against bossing as well. It's just a perfect weapon this season. I definitely recommend having a rocket launcher on, and obviously like something like the Apex Predator, especially this season, is going to be very, very good. It is, I mean, somewhat getting a nerf next season. The bait and switch is going to have a -5% on it, so it's going from 35 to 30. Obviously that's going to be, you know, not completely beneficial, but at the same time, it's still going to be a really good option. Now, when it comes to the armor and mods you're going to be using for this setup, obviously on the helmet, you're going to be wanting to put on Harmonic Siphon just because you're going to be using mainly that Sunshot, Heavy Ammo Finder just to constantly have ammo for your rocket launcher. Ideally, you should have that on. And then also I put on Hands On just because I'm mainly going to be getting super energy from doing melee since I'm using a healing grenade. On my arms, I'm going to go with heavy handed, so I'm getting some extra orbs of power from my powered melee kills. Harmonic loader, I went with 2 of those just for faster reload. This is more just preference. You can obviously add on whatever you want here. Chest piece, I went with triple charged up just because I'm wanting to have just as many stacks as possible of armor charges, because as we go into our legs, I'm going to be using solar weapon surge, just keeping high damage at 22% for my Sunshot or also my Apex Predator. And then on my cloak, I'm going to be using a time dilation just to keep those armor charges a little bit longer, powerful attraction, so that whenever I activate my barricade, I'm going to pull in all the orbs of power around me, and then Reaper, whenever I activate the barricade, my next weapon kill will give me an orb of power. Now let's talk about the artifact. This one, I'm going to kind of explain this a little bit more just because this is going to kind of go into how this works for all champions in the game. First up, on the first one, you definitely want to have on Unstoppable Hand Cannon so that your Sunshot is able to take out Unstoppables. Going to the second column, Kindling Trigger, Radiant causes solar weapons to apply Scorch to unscorched combatants. Again, part of the easy way of getting back our melee if for some reason it goes away because of that fragment we're going to be using with it. Obviously also from whence you came, just so you're doing a little bit extra damage to take in scoring combatants. In the third column, Flint Striker, Rapid Solar Weapon Precision Hits and Rapid Solar Weapon Final Blows grant Radiant. Great way to constantly keep that applied to us. Heart of the Flame, casting your super solar grants nearby allies Radiant, increases the damage of your super for each nearby ally. Obviously just a great one to have on whenever we're doing non-solo gameplay. And then also Wished into Being, so we're getting our super back a little bit faster. In the fourth column, we're going to be going with Revitalizing Blast, causing damage with the solar ability, weakens champions and bosses for a short duration. Obviously just a really good one to constantly, weaken targets. This will be applied whenever you hit champions, so you're just going to be getting huge damage on them. And then also Overload Rocket Launcher, so that you're able to take out overload champions or at least stun them. Again, part of how this is really good for all the champions. In the fifth column, Rays of Precision, while Radiant Solar Weapon Final Blows cause combatants to ignite, just feeding into just the explosions of this build. And then a Solar Operative, just so that you're having a little bit more damage while you're playing solo. Again, talking about how this goes against every champion. For my top weapon, I'm using a Scatter Signal, so that's able to take advantage of the barrier stun with radiant effects. So that's just a great one to have on. It instantly strips bubbles, so it's always a really good option for stunning anybody. Unstoppables, obviously your hand cannon, so the Sunshot is a really good one. And then Overload, I'm using the Apex Predator with that artifact mod. So again, you have complete and utter coverage no matter what. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you take advantage of this build. I'm probably going to be mainly using this for a while just because I've been having so much fun with it, but hoping to find some other stuff here soon. I'm really tinkering with some stuff with Hall of Fire Heart, so I will be back to you with some more of that here soon. But let me know what you're interested in seeing down below. Like the video, subscribe, become a member, and make sure you follow me over on YouTube and Twitter at Birdman778. Thanks so much. Hope you have a great night, day, or whatever it may be.